Riku has an intense one-on-one battle with the mastermind behind the brake decals. And for the very first time since Gundam Build Fighters Season 1 and 2, things actually get real. Without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, this is the best episode of Gundam Build Divers thus far. And that's because there was actual stakes involved. There was emotional depth in this episode, not to mention easily the most intense battle that we've seen from this season thus far. The actual story itself is surprisingly simple. Riku is confronted by a mysterious messenger who looks like he just got out of a Gundam Seed spin-off manga, and he's there to tell him that the mastermind behind the brake decals wants to meet him in real life and have an actual Gunpla duel. Not like the typical ones that we see in the season, more like the traditional Gunpla battles we got from Gundam Build Fighters Season 1 and 2. And honestly, I'm glad it's finally here. That was one of my favorite things about the previous seasons. It's what allowed me to actually take it seriously a little bit. Despite the fact that it was basically just a bunch of kids playing with their toys, the fact that these toys could be destroyed and that they would have to rebuild them and quite literally pour their soul into its creation, I thought was one of the best things about it. Here, in the Gundam Build Divers world, if you lose, you just get to try again. You can continuously enhance your Gundam without any repercussions at all, and honestly, that takes a lot of the danger and high stakes away from some of the more intense battles from the series. However, in this episode, things get kicked up to 11, as we are formally introduced to the mastermind of the mass divers, Tsukasa Shiba. And yes, he is one of the friends of Koichi. They hinted at that in a previous episode by showing that mysterious hooded figure. It's the same guy. And this guy has a massive chip on his shoulder. He just wants things to go back to the way that they used to be, where people would actually build their Gunpla, they'd get destroyed, and they would rebuild them and enhance them again. Why he's so passionate about this is still something of a mystery, but the way that I look at it is Tsukasa Shiba is a Super Smash Bros. Melee player, and everybody else is getting all hyped for the brand new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Basically, this guy cannot escape from the past, and he just cannot let it go. There's probably a bigger reason behind this, and a lot of this is probably going to involve the tumultuous relationship that he has with Koichi, but it's still an utter mystery in this episode. But basically, this entire episode right here is all about Riku having this intense battle with Tsukasa as they discuss philosophy and what it truly means to love Gunpla and represent your love for it. With Tsukasa staying in the past, wanting to have the classic GPD duels, and of course, Riku being accustomed to loving the GBN world. They're both right, and in some ways they're both kind of wrong all at the same time. But really, you're going to mostly remember this episode for the introduction of Tsukasa's Gunpla, which goes by the name of the Astray No Name. And wow, has this got to be one of the coolest Gundams that I have ever seen, and maybe in my top 5 favorite coolest Gundams that I've seen from the Build series spin-offs. It's basically an Astray that has just been upgraded to the nth degree. It's absolutely insane. The overall design of this thing, the only way I can describe it in really one word is just sharp. It looks like it would cut you if you actually touched it, but it's enhanced with all sorts of really cool weapons, like these giant wings, which can fold out and actually like act as a shield, or actually combine with his guns, or even act independently. He also makes use of the Nitro system, which is something that I think is also really interesting, and visually just allows his Gunpla to pop. What I think is also really cool is Tsukasa actually mentioned that this is a Gunpla that he has used in over 500 different battles, and every single time he loses, he actually enhances and makes that Gundam even stronger. That's probably why it just completely defeated him when he realized he poured all of his soul into this Gunpla, only to realize that the thing he loves has been erased and replaced with something new. I'm sure there's something more personal involved, especially with his relationship with Koichi, but who cares? We get to see him battle against Riku in a one-on-one fight that is just so stylistically perfect. I especially love how ridiculous it is. You know, something that's really funny about this episode, and something I didn't even realize until I was done watching it, is that what Riku actually did in this episode might be one of the dumbest things that any kid his age could have possibly done. And you know what? The Gundam Build series, yes, it is made for hardcore Gundam fans like myself, but ultimately it is geared towards a younger audience. And the message in this episode is that if somebody calls you out to go to a weird, mysterious warehouse in the middle of nowhere, you should go there without telling anyone. I just thought that that was really dangerous. I mean, they literally end up having a battle, like, in this place that looks like where, like, Darth Sidious has his freaking meetings. It's hilarious, and it just so happens to be a GPD battle station there, allowing them to have their fight, and the overall, like, backdrop of their fight is all, like, blood red and apocalyptic looking, which just allows the intensity to just bleed through in this episode. The actual battle that they do have is also insanely intense and features some of the best animation that I've actually seen from Gundam Build Divers thus far. A lot of fluidity with watching these two mobile suits just absolutely rip each other apart. And while Tsukasa has a lot of experience and clearly is in charge of most of the battle, Riku was really impressive in this episode, not only utilizing the Trans Am, but actually managing to defeat his opponent in a way that was honestly just the coolest ever, as his Gundam 00 Diver Ace sustained a ton of damage in this episode, even having its head completely cut off, but that didn't stop him from taking his beam saber, shoving it right into the cockpit of the frickin' Astray no-name, and then igniting it. It has exploded through his head, destroying all of the things in amazing detail. It's a really satisfying battle, and it's super intense. And basically, it's just an introduction to this villain in this episode. It looks like after he is defeated, he tries to run away. Riku and all of his other friends, they all show up, and Koichi goes after him. They get into a tense confrontation where Tsukasa calls him out on the fact that he never tried to fight back against the change, against all of the things that they were changing about the Gunpla battling world. This is something that Tsukasa is actively fighting for, something he truly believes in, but at the same time, he has tears in his eyes. There's a reason why he's crying, and there's definitely something a little more tragic and emotional going on here, but they're not revealing it to the viewer quite yet. There's also a really great scene at the very end of the episode where, after Tsukasa is defeated, he actually is a man of his word. He actually gives up the SD Gundam to Riku, who ends up returning it to Ayame and her teammates. Yes, some of them actually return in this episode. The Gundam Pope actually returns and reunites with Ayame, who might have the most adorable anime smile of 2018. So what's the rundown on this episode of Gundam Build Divers? Aside from the fact that Riku met someone online and decided to meet them in a really scary place where he could have potentially been stabbed to death, things turned out pretty good in this episode. I especially loved the introduction of Tsukasa Shiba. It was a long time coming. I want to learn a little bit more about this character, though, and it's interesting. Like, he's not right or wrong. I mean, he's definitely passionate about the way that he used to duel, and I actually see where he's coming from. It adds so much more weight to the series when these characters' Gunpla can actually be destroyed. And at the same time, Riku grew up in a world where the GBN was just a normal thing. It was just a game, something him and his friends could enjoy together and be happy about. And it's given him a lot of, like, really great memories, and something that he doesn't want to have to be tarnished by some guy who's ultimately obsessed with something that used to be classic and awesome. It's a really nice sort of look at the fact that some people just can't let things go. Basically, it's the type of episode that I've been waiting for in Gundam Build Divers, and it absolutely worked in this episode. Aside from that, other details, basically everybody's just celebrating about the fact that the mass divers are going to no longer be a problem in GBN. Apparently they're creating a patch, so they're not going to be allowed to do that. I wonder what Tsukasa's next big plan is going to be in terms of invading the GBN world and potentially trying to corrupt it. There's still a lot more to get from his story, and I'm guessing that's where the second half of the series is going, and I do love how incredibly different it is from the previous seasons. While I think the first half of the season so far has not quite lived up to some of the lofty heights of the previous seasons, in particular the first, which in my opinion is still absolutely perfect, this was the episode that really sold me on this series right here and the story direction that it's actually going with. It also helped that the Gunpla battle in this episode just looked awesome. So yeah, kind of an interesting episode here, giving us a villain with some surprising depth, and honestly, I hope we get to see the return of some more of the traditional battles, as, like I said, I really think they do intensify the emotion and the stakes, and there's actually something to fight for in that sense. The good thing that I am really excited about, and this might seem kind of nitpicky, is I never really liked the Gundam 00 Diver Ace. It was essentially just an upgraded version of the the main mobile suit from Gundam 00. But it looks like in the next episode, Riku is going to be completely redesigning his Gunpla, and it's going to have crazy angel wings and all types of new designs to it. It might even have like a brand new base for what sort of Gundam that it's actually going to be. And I can't wait to see what it's going to be all about. I'm going to try and avoid like all of the pictures of the Gunpla models that are coming out and everything. I'm sure it's probably already out there in some sense. But man, I'm pumped to see what his new Gunpla is actually going to be. And I can't wait to see how this event is actually going to have an effect on Riku's character, as I still think Riku's incredibly boring. We know more about Tsukasa Shiba than we really do Riku at this point. Again, Riku's just a happy kid who likes Gunpla, and he's really passionate about it. That's really all there is to the character. I'm hoping that this is going to bring about a little bit more about him and what Gunpla truly does mean to him. I'm really excited for the future of the series, and this was a super exciting episode, which I'm going to give a 5 out of 5. I love this episode, but most importantly, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Tell me all of them in the comment section below, and what you guys hope to see from the rest of Gundam Build Divers. Did this episode win you over the way that it did me? Did you enjoy the intense action? What do you think about Tsukasa Shiba and his actual motives? Is he right? Is he wrong? Do you want to see more traditional battling actually return to the series? And what are your hopes and dreams for the rest of Gundam Build Divers? So thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.